Since DC's new Stargirl show premieres this Monday, we thought it'd only be appropriate if we were to make a video on it. More specifically, about the Justice Society of America. With them playing such an important role in inspiring the new JSA of the Stargirl universe, we thought it might leave a few people posing the question, who are the original JSA? In the late 1940s, DC Comics, which actually quick side note, DC stands for Detective Comics, so I just find it a bit funny that we're technically calling them Detective Comics, but anyway. DC Comics, then actually two companies, National and All American Comics, created a new comic book series called All-Star Comics. All-Star included several stories, each featuring a different popular costume character of the time, such as The Flash, Hawkman, and Green Lantern. With its winter 1940 issue, All-Star's format changed. Writer Gardner Fox combined all the company's primary characters in a single story. They didn't stop a crime spree or save the world. No, these heroes met for dinner. And this was the humble beginning of the first superhero team in comics. During DC's Silver Age, heroes such as The Flash, Green Lantern, Hawkman, and the Atom were dramatically updated for modern readers. Instead of having both old and new heroes live on the same Earth, DC created the concept of parallel Earths. The Justice Society's Earth was essentially moved to a separate Earth called Earth 2, while DC's modern-day heroes lived on Earth 1. Earth 2 was one of an infinite number of parallel universes. Two company-wide events changed the JSA continuity in extremely significant ways. First, in 1985's Crisis on Infinite Earths, which collapsed all parallel Earths into only one universe in continuity. As a result, the Justice Society became pre-Time War heroes in the DC universe. Then, in 2011, DC again wiped the slate to create the New 52. This universe began fresh, with most characters reinvented from scratch. The New 52 contained 52 parallel Earths, a concept introduced in the 2005 Infinite Crisis, which had semi-restored the DC original multiverse. Earth 2 in the New 52 was also home of the Justice Society. This time around, all of the characters were of similar age to the mainstream DC universe, as they were not of World War II. Okay, so now you know where it all started for these Golden Age heroes in the comics, it's now time to dive into the live-action Earth 2, the home of the Stargirl TV show. So we know that Stargirl will be focusing on high school student Courtney Whitmore, who inspires an unlikely group of young heroes to stop the villains of the past. These young heroes, featuring Stargirl, Dr. Mid-Nite, Hourman, Wildcat, and accompanied/mentored by Stripe, will form the new JSA in order to take down some old foes of the original JSA, the Injustice Society of America. Yup, you heard me correctly. Now that's an unoriginal team name if I ever heard one. So from the trailers we can tell that the original JSA were the elderly statesmen of the superhero gig. And we even got to see a group photo, which gives us a look at the team's lineup in the live-action adaptation. In this photo we can see Jay Garrick, the Golden Age Flash, Alan Scott, the Golden Age Green Lantern, Hawkman and Hawkgirl, Dr. Fate, Johnny Thunder and Thunderbolt, Sandman, Wildcat, Hourman, Dr. Mid-Nite, and finally, Courtney Whitmore's predecessor, Starman. So let's dive into the comics once again and find out a little more about these Golden Age heroes. Jay Garrick is a college student who prior to 1940 accidentally inhales hard water vapors after taking a smoke break from his laboratory. As a result, he finds that he can run at superhuman speed and has super fast reflexes. And yes, I know water vapors, super speed doesn't really make that much sense, but I mean it's a comic book, guys, so just okay. I'm guessing that DC also realized that this water vapor based origin didn't really make much sense for a meta with super speed, because retcons imply that the inhalation simply activated a latent meta gene. After a brief career as a college football star, he dons a red shirt with a lightning bolt and stylized metal helmet with wings, based on images of Roman god Mercury. He then begins to fight crime as the Flash. The helmet belonged to Jay's father, Joseph, who fought during World War I. He sometimes uses the helmet as a weapon or type of shield. Thousands of years ago, a mystical green flame fell onto Earth in ancient China as a meteor. A voice in the flame predicted that it would act 3 times, once to bring death, once to bring life, and once to bring power. I'll be skipping over the first 2 prophecies as they aren't hugely relevant, but for the third, by 1940, after having already fulfilled the first 2/3 of the prophecy, the lantern fell into the hands of Alan Scott, a young railroad engineer. Following a railroad bridge collapse, the flame instructs Scott on how to fashion a ring from its metal, to give him fantastic powers as the superhero Green Lantern. He adopts a colourful costume of red, purple, yellow and brown. He also discovers his power's weakness to wood when he's bludgeoned with a club. Alan is a founding member of the Justice Society of America and its 2nd chairman. Scott uses his ring to fly, walk through solid objects by moving them through the 4th dimension, paralyze or blind people temporarily, hypnotize them, create rays of energy, melt metal as with a blowtorch, and causes dangerous objects to glow, among other things. It could also allow him and others to time travel. Occasionally, he uses it to read minds or create super-solid objects and force fields in the manner usually associated with his fellow Green Lantern, Hal Jordan. His ring could protect him against any object made of metal, but would not protect him against any wood or plant-based objects. In the days of ancient Egypt, Prince Khufu is engaged in a feud with his rival, the Egyptian priest Hathset. The priest eventually captures both Khufu and his consort Cheara and kills them using a cursed dagger of nth metal. Millennia later, in 1940, Khufu is reincarnated as American archaeologist Carter Hall, Cheara as Shira Saunders, and Hathset as scientist Anton Haster. After touching the same nth metal dagger used to kill Khufu, Carter regains the memories of his former life and realizes Hastor is the reincarnation of his ancient foe. When Haster kidnaps Shiera using a magic spell to draw her to his lair, Hall uses his newly found memories to craft a gravity-defying belt using the nth metal and winged costume to become Hawkman. Carter successfully rescues Shiera, Anton is killed by electrocution, and Carter and Saunders begin a romantic relationship. Meanwhile, Shiera adopts the identity of Hawkgirl and starts to wear a female counterpart to his costume. In 1920, an archaeologist named Sven Nilsson and his son Kent go on an expedition to the Valley of Ur. While exploring the temple discovered by his father, Kent opens the tomb of Nabu the Wise and revives him from his suspended animation, accidentally releasing a poisonous gas which kills Sven. Nabu takes pity on Kent and teaches him the skills of a sorcerer over the next 20 years, before giving him a mythical helmet, amulet, and cloak. John L. Thunder is the 7th son of a 7th son, born at 7 a.m. on Saturday, July 7th, the 7th day of the week, the 7th day of the month, in 1917. This causes him to be kidnapped by some men from the fictional country of Badnesia, who had been looking for someone born at this time, on this day. As an infant, the blonde-haired Johnny is given possession of the pink, lightning-haired, genie-like thunderbolt, named Yiz, or YZ, or Yizzes. I really don't know. To be truthful, I really don't know that much about this character, so Bear with, this is just a lot of research. But anyway, during a mystical ritual on his 7th birthday, which was intended to allow the Badnessians to use Johnny to rule the world. However, the plan is soon aborted after an attack from a neighbouring country. Johnny eventually returns to the United States and lives an ordinary life until one day, while washing the windows, he inadvertently summons Thunderbolt with the magic words, "Say you," when he calls for someone to throw him a sponge. Johnny underwent several adventures, each time inadvertently summoning the Thunderbolt via the use of "Say you" in his day-to-day conversation, never realizing that the Thunderbolt, who moved so fast he was virtually invisible, was responsible for the extraordinary feats that befell him, before finally learning of Thunderbolt's existence. Johnny accidentally joined the Justice Society when wishing out loud that he could be a member, and was immediately taken to their meeting by Thunderbolt. Attired in a green business suit, fedora, and gas mask, the Sandman used a gun emitting sleeping gas to sedate criminals. He was originally one of the mystery men to appear in comic books and other types of action fiction in the late 30s, but was later outfitted with a unitard, cowl, and costume, and developed into a proper superhero, acquiring a sidekick called Sandy, and founding the Justice Society of America. Wesley Dodds has prophetic dreams which come to him as cryptic, ambiguous versions of crimes. Originally of unexplained origin, these dreams were later ascribed to an encounter between Dodds and the eternity known as Dream via retcon. The visions haunt Dodds, who uses keen intellect and amateur detective skills to properly interpret them. Orphaned during the Great Depression, Ted Grant found himself unemployed in the big city. One night, he saved Soccer Smith, the heavyweight boxing champion, from a mugging. Soccer took Ted under his wing, and soon Ted became a heavyweight boxing champion in his own right. He also became tangled unknowingly in his manager's sinister plans, and Grant was arrested for the crime of killing his mentor Smith, a crime that was the fault of his managers. Later, he came upon a child who had been robbed of his Green Lantern comic. The boy, describing the mystery man Green Lantern, inspired Grant to create a costume of a large black cat. He took the name Wildcat and vowed to clear his name. He brought his managers Flint and Skinner to justice. The criminals were forced to confess, clearing Grant's name, and obtaining justice for Smith. Using the identity of Wildcat, Grant continued to fight crime. Scientist Rex Tyler developed an affinity for biochemistry. Working his way through college, he landed a job researching vitamins and hormone supplements. A series of discoveries and accidents led him to the miraculous vitamin Miraclo. He found that concentrated doses of the Miraclo given to test mice increased their strength and vitality several times over, but only for 1 hour. After taking a dose himself, Rex found out that he could have superhuman strength and speed for an hour before returning to human levels. Keeping the discovery of Miraclo a secret, Tyler decided that human trials would be limited to the only person he could trust, himself. Feeling that the Miraclo induced abilities that should be used for good purposes, he decided to use those abilities to help those in need. Using a costume he found in an abandoned costume shop, he started to adventure as the Hourman. Charles McNider, a young surgeon, was blinded when a grenade went off in front of him, but he found that he could see in the dark, but only in perfect darkness. McNider developed a special visor, allowing him to see in the light, and blackout bombs capable of blocking out all light. Becoming a costumed crime fighter. He adopted an owl, naming it Hootie, and it became his sidekick. In his civilian identity, he pretends to be a helpless blind man, a character concept that predates that of Daredevil. Okay, so now here's where things get interesting. In Stargirl, Joel McHale plays a rich socialite called Sylvester Pemberton, aka Starman. A courageous and confident superhero, Starman is a member of the Justice Society of America and wields a mysterious anti-gravity weapon called the Cosmic Staff. His longtime partner is his sidekick Stripesy, better known as Courtney Whitmore's stepfather Pat Dugan. If you're familiar with the Stargirl story in the comics, you'll likely notice a few changes. The biggest of which is that Sylvester Pemberton has never actually been Starman in the comics. He's actually best known as the former Star-Spangled Kid, though he did eventually adapt the similar sounding name of Skyman in the mid-1980s. However, other details remain the same. As the Star-Spangled Kid, Pemberton did operate with Dugan Stripesy as his sidekick, and did use Starman's Cosmic Staff for a time when he was a member of the JSA. From what I can tell, the Stargirl version of Starman is a combination of the Star-Spangled Kid, Ted Knight, and Jack Knight, both as Starman. So, where are the Justice Society now? Well, a couple of years ago we saw some of the JSA members during Rebirth that included timeline-changing hijinks that were down to Dr. Manhattan post-Doomsday Clock. Said hijinks involved him indirectly killing Alan Scott. On July 16th of 1940, Alan Scott was riding a train over a collapsing bridge, but he survived by grabbing onto a Green Lantern. The timeline then changes when Dr. Manhattan moves the lantern 6 inches out of Alan Scott's reach, so that Scott dies in the train accident. There are some other stories that I won't get into now, featuring Superman and others involving the elderly Johnny Thunder trying to escape his retirement home. With this video now coming to an end, I wanted to share how excited I am for DC going forward in a post-crisis world. Having Stargirl on the new Earth 2, and the possibilities of diving into the history of the original JSA, and having the new JSA possibly cross over with other DC shows. What gets me excited about these possibilities are 2 quotes. One from Jeff Johns saying, "Green Lantern and the Flash are spoken of and they exist in the JSA. There's a picture of them in the first episode, and there's plans in the future for things. But Jay Garrick and Alan Scott, to me, are always the elderly statesmen. They're the big heroes of the JSA, and their shadow is very long, and they're great characters. They are a part of the original JSA, and their legacies will be felt throughout the show. I don't want to spoil too much about it, but I can just leave it at that." And another quote by Stargirl herself, Breck Bassinger. "There have been talks of Stargirl getting to go on an episode of The Flash and having a bigger storyline, but it didn't happen this season. But I think that would be the coolest thing. So much of my family have watched The Flash for years." So with me just about talked out, I'd like to know your thoughts. Are you excited for Stargirl? Will you be watching? And what things do you hope to see come from this show and these characters? Thank you so much for watching. If you liked what you saw here today, then maybe consider subscribing to catch our other content as and when it releases.